This is Snakes and Otters, a pointless discussion of eternal questions. Get ready. We're about to live in your head rent-free.
Welcome to episode 207, and
I am Martin.
And I'm Robert.
And I'm Francis.
I'm Marcus.
And I'm Cajun. Today, Code of Honor. We're going to do a Josh Billings quote here. And who, may you ask, is Josh Billings? Well, he was around the time of Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain.
One of our
In fact,
guys.
You can find a photograph out there of him and them together with a third person. And he was a humorist, too, of his time, though, I've never been introduced to him before, never heard about him in school, grade school or anything like you do Twain, but then he didn't have the successful novels that Twain did. So today's quote, which I think is very appropriate then and now in a lot of different factors. Half the troubles of this life can be traced to saying yes too quickly and not saying no soon enough. And I think today, no is not said hardly at all a lot of times.
Well, that's very true. Nobody likes no to begin with. And the environment today is extremely permissive.
Oh, permissive. I like that word. I think that's in many respects what you're talking about here. It's half of what he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly part of it. It feeds the environment so that you feel like you don't have to say no to anything.
Everything is okay as long as somebody wants it that way.
Oh, it makes me happy.
Right.
Makes
If
me
it
happy.
feels good, do it.
That's it right there.
That's what I'm hitting.
What I do in the privacy of my own home is nobody's business but mine.
Well, it's no longer kept in the privacy of your own home. It's whatever I want to do, period.
Social media. Everybody puts everything out there to see. It doesn't matter what you do. I mean, let's broadcast it. Everybody else needs to know what I'm doing.
Well, now this quote makes me wonder how many times this guy was divorced.
Well, back then, probably not too many.
I mean, you
This
could
is
just
true.
wait for her to die, really.
Right.
Would almost certainly happen.
So, but it's a very prescient quote.
Oh, there you go. Push the button. Come on.
think that's a word boner? All right.
yeah,
Word
absolutely.
boner.
Yeah, that one definitely deserves that.
But it is. It's a prescient quote because it really signals. Well, it's both prescient as well as observant because it signals what is coming, but also it's a great commentary what has already gone before, even at that time. The more successful your culture, your nation is, the more decadent it becomes.
Oh yeah, that's the more advanced. In other words, everything it goes back to the laws of entropy. Everything is constantly in decay. It requires energy to prevent that. And once you run out of energy,
Well, I don't even think it's that because there's a lot of energy in the culture today. But
Okay.
is it good energy? Is it applied in a good way?
Is it being spun off into nonsense, or
Yeah.
well,
You
I mean,
can
it's
apply your-
self-directed,
yeah.
right? It's internal. It's narcissistic.
yeah? Well, it's you can direct your energy to doing something productive, or you can direct your energy into TikTok.
And to answer the Empire's question over there, he was only married once.
Well,
Yes, his spouse was, this is a good first name, Zipha, with a Z-I-P-H-A, Shaw.
Interesting.
I don't
So
see
I
that
think
one
it's-
coming back, but it might. It's interesting.
He was married from 1845 to 1885, which is a pretty long
that's
marriage
a,
in
that's a
that
good,
time.
that's
That
a good
is.
run.
And apparently successful too. So
Yeah. So
Well,
maybe
back then, just living through childbirth was a successful marriage.
very, very
this
much
is
so. Yeah.
true.
You guys have kind of talked about this quote so far on a macro level, but I'm thinking it's really more of a micro thing.
Yeah.
It's really much of a, a personal, do we then and now, do we consider our actions well enough? Are we deliberative in our decision making?
No.
And
No.
and generally, of course, the outside forces don't want us to be. The advertisers and
Go with the flow. Do what feels good.
Yeah.
I mean, advertisers want us, put something sparkly and shiny in front of you and make you snap like a fish. So we don't deliberate on our decisions very much.
No, I think this has both a personal and a collective
Yeah.
aspect, and you can't disassociate one from the other.
Are you suggesting that we are a nation of knee-jerk reaction, folks?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. Marketing is based on that ability to see the shiny light and push the buy now with one click.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about this in a prior episode just last month about the difference between responding versus reacting,
Yeah.
and acting on emotion as opposed to logic, reason.
Is that what this is? Is this all about emotion,
Maybe not all of it, but I think emotion drives a good deal of it.
or preeminently?
I think it drives a good deal of it.
Well, because emotion is more powerful than thought, as it's been told. I mean, as a
Yes,
writer,
it is.
It's more visceral.
yeah, that's correct.
That's probably a
it's
better
more
way to put it.
effective at sticking around because it's like writing when you have to make an emotional connection in order for somebody to keep reading.
Right.
That's an essential thing. They don't care. I mean, I suppose in certain nonfictions maybe, but you've already got them with the subject matter there.
Well, no, because even in that, you have to have some kind of emotional. You've got to connect
You have
to the
keep
reader.
drawing 'em.
That's right. Yeah.
It's you either have to connect to the reader, or you have to create a setting or characters that even if they despise them, they can't wait to see what happens next to this son of a bitch.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, positive or negative
Yeah.
doesn't really matter.
Right,
It's all
right.
about emotions. Yeah.
Right.
'cause
Well, I mean,
both
if-
are powerful.
If more writers would study propaganda throughout the years and its effectiveness and the
Oh,
theories behind it,
Absolutely.
we would have a lot more successful writers.
Well, yeah, commercial writers. You're right
Commercial.
because
Yeah.
that's how you would write commercial fiction. So many writers, many of us do like to write commercial fiction. We want something that sells. but
Right
there-
to market.
Yeah.
That's the
That's-
term
that's
there.
true.
Yeah, right to market.
But unfortunately, it is often fluid. If you're chasing the next big thing, you'll never find it because it changes too often.
Right. It's very difficult to catch that lightning in a bottle.
Right, it happens occasionally, but and then there are some that write, in a more literary bent that they don't really give a rat's ass about whether it sells or not. They want to create this masterpiece.
Yeah.
And in it's out there. There's a lot of folks out there. Literary fiction, that's usually the ones that catch the. If you get a good one that sells, it will sell gazillions.
Well, there's more manuscripts sitting in drawers chasing that master fiction.
Ding ding.
Well,
There
and
is being produced out there.
well, then there's as much as I love our friend in Michigan, he mentioned to me once, and I think this is where he doesn't understand the process. He's waiting for that perfect idea.
It'll never come.
That's
to write a book, yes.
Mercedes Lackey's very clear. I follow her on Quora, and she says
She's no longer on Quora.
She still drops in occasionally.
Oh, does she? Because I saw she was very adamant about leaving.
Yeah, she's not. She's responding, but she's not really posting a lot of stuff. But I still get her stuff, and she's all about ideas are worthless. Because that's the one where she calls them Tinkerbell usually when they start talking about. I've got this great idea. Why don't you write it for me? We'll split the profits. It happens all the time. And she says, I mean, what an ignorant SOB you are.
Right. Well,
You don't know anything about it.
the podcast I mentioned last night, how to write writing a great novel or whatever the podcast was called. The writer in that, he talks about that a lot. People come and say, "Oh, I've got this great idea for a book,"
Sit down and write it.
and he says that should be the writer's response.
That's right. Sit down and write
Because all your idea is something like machines take over or do something. It's like, well, all right, well, that's a concept, but where's the conflict? Where's the story?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which shows that you really have no freaking clue about what you're talking about here.
Well, in many ways, to circle back to Cajun's quote,
yeah.
that's very much that not saying no, because just because you, as Americans, we don't like to think this, but just because you have a thought in your head doesn't mean it should come out of your head.
Oh, yes. I'm glad you mentioned that because, we have no filters in many respects. That's a lack of emotional intelligence, folks. Pure and simple.
Opening the doorway for the thought police.
Yeah, well, not necessarily that, but, we're usually speaking on the matters of being kind. That's one of them. And what was it? And I think it was Twain himself that says, it's better to keep your mouth shut when somebody thinks you're an idiot than opening it and then
Proving them right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, everyone has the right to their thoughts, their opinions, their ideas. Absolutely. No matter how wrong-headed we may think they may be. But what you don't have a right is to inflict your insanity on everybody else.
Well, yeah. I mean, you may have the right to speak, but that doesn't guarantee that you need to be heard.
Right.
Well, just like Billings had a similar one to what you just said about Twain. The best time for you to hold your tongue is the time you feel you must say something or bust.
Yes, I saw that.
Oh, I love that.
These two
Yeah.
guys were very, very similar. Like
I wonder if
say,
they
for
ever
the
went on
time.
tour together.
Well, there is a photograph. Twain and who was the third one? I don't forgot now. Oh, Petroleum v. Nasby, and that's another name I've never heard.
Petroleum, yeah.
Petroleum was his first name.
Oh wow. Okay.
That's different.
I just, because Twain's like the first guy to do like a tour.
Right. Yeah. As a humorist.
Yeah,
And it
like he
basically-
was the first, the first
Stand-up
comedian
comedian,
to first stand-up comedian, the first guy to go on tour. I wonder if he had an opening act, and
Well,
that was this guy.
He's the first guy in the U.S. because when you think about it, in the U.S., that sort of thing really wasn't possible until the railroads.
You're
Right,
right. Because
Now, there were people like Voltaire who did tour in
Sure.
Europe.
very much so. That's-
Now, wasn't doing stand-up comedy,
Right.
but he was taking his act on the road, basically.
And he kind of didn't have a choice because after a point, didn't he get like run out of France for a bit?
He did.
Well,
yeah,
yes.
He had to go to
Lots
Germany.
of people
he
got
was
ran out
Well,
of
and he
France
was
for a bit.
supposedly in
Yeah.
Russia. I don't know for how
Including
long.
He was
Yeah.
because he was a celebrity, because he's kind of like Twain in that he's one of those guys that's always got a quip and always is just absolutely just this rapier-like wit. I mean, I still think one of his best quotes is when he's a fallen away Catholic and he's on his deathbed and the priest comes to him and wants to give him last rites. He says, "Would you renounce Satan?" He says, "Father, please. Now is not the time for making enemies." So, he's just an amazing guy, which we've done. Yeah, we've done him.
But
Well-
yeah, Billings toured too. I mean, same time as Twain, so they apparently crossed paths several times over. But Billings' father was a representative in the United States House of Representatives, and his grandfather was served in Congress.
Okay.
So he had a very political background, and he got kicked out of Hamilton College for stealing the clapper out of the bell there. As a prank.
Sounds like somebody we'd like to meet. Yes,
Right.
that's right.
Yeah,
He did several
would-
things. He
he
was
would
a
fit-
farmer, a coal miner, an explorer, an auctioneer before he became a journalist up in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Interesting.
And then went on.
Doesn't sound that dissimilar from Twain, because Twain had quite a
Exactly.
he wanted to be a riverboat captain for so long, and then realized, okay, this is it. Now what? And then he ends up in journalism, and next thing you know, he's a celebrity. So they follow a very, very similar path. I wonder how much Twain's shadow overshadowed Billings.
A lot, I'd say, because of his
there was
successful
only room-
novels of.
yeah, he wasn't a writer.
Well, and Clemens in his Twain persona was larger than life.
very much so, and a dick
And
at times.
Billings was a writer. I mean, he did Farmer's Almanacs with an AX on the end, and a few other books and so forth. Also later on, but never quite had the
Well,
notoriety.
and you raise a good point, because at that time, the way to international stardom, the only way to do that, it would never be through journalism. It would be through being a novelist, because that can sell throughout the world. You've got your own brand and your own product.
Sure.
Which they would.
And-
It's not
well,
words they would use, but
and Twain's novels, I mean, they really were landmarks of American literature.
Oh, yes.
Well, yeah,
And more so than he wasn't just a writer. He was those Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer really were.
Connecticut Yankee.
Yeah, I mean all
every
that stuff.
single one
Just
of
like
them, yeah.
you go Cooper, Melville, guys like that. But Twain is right there with them.
well, he
he
captured
overshadows all of them. I mean, none of those guys were as near of a celebrity in their own lifetime or even
Well,
later.
no, but the thing
But
about
the
Twain,
quality of the literature, though, is
it's a quality of the literature. But Twain, he may not have been the first, but he's the first well-known author
Yeah, because he was
to
known
capture
international.
what it meant to be an American.
Correct.
He captures in Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer the American experience of the day better than anybody else.
well,
good at
Cooper did that too, but it was in his day, and it was a very different world.
Well, it was
at that
his
time.
day. It was it was such a. I mean, you're thinking of Last of the Mohicans.
40 years
obviously,
earlier. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
it was a different world then.
a different
America.
world. The country wasn't even a country yet, and he wrote about much of what was totally unsettled wilderness.
Yeah.
Twain wrote about the culture of his day.
Yeah, the modern American civilization.
And I'm glad you put it that way, because what struck me while we were talking about this, and this is hardly where Code of Honor usually goes, but since we're only doing one quote, we're kind of freewheeling the whole
Yeah,
thing.
we're learning our way.
We're learning our way around this one. It struck me that this period, post-Civil War, post-Reconstruction, probably be the better way to put
Yeah.
it,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
up through the end of the century, before we really get into the really worst of the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
It is something akin to the post World War II baby boom. Well, not the baby boomer, but when the baby boom was going on, that affluence that the country experienced, it was obviously not the same kind of thing.
All right.
But things were, people were going west, expanding, and while there's a
Culture
whole
was
lot of
exploding.
dirty, nasty stuff going on, it was a time of great prosperity.
Well, Twain himself called it the Gilded Age.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
that's an exact.
Well, and that probably refers more to that robber baron era, but I mean, it's even
somewhat,
beyond that.
Yeah, because the prosperity was unprecedented at
Right.
this time, and not all of it was based on technology. Some of
No.
it was.
Well, technology always enhances
Right.
prosperity. It doesn't. Any prosperity that is built on technology is going to be very short-lived.
yeah,
because-
and the railroads were one of those examples.
Yes,
the
but at
Titanic
this
was
time,
one of them.
The steamboats, the paddle wheelers, was
That
an
is
even
correct.
bigger part of this time period with Twain and
Very much so
everything.
in its early days, especially. By the time, of course, Twain dies, after in 1909, I think it was.
Yeah.
And which is a completely different world at that time because
Yes.
you have that's the era
You have
of the-
electricity, early
Locomotion.
phones.
Well, I mean,
Telegraph.
Aircraft.
the Titanic
Telegraph.
was seen as the
Automobiles.
ultimate technological
automobiles.
achievement of man's hubris, which was right around that time. We can conquer anything, which of course God decides, oh really? How about I send you this iceberg and see how you do? So
Well, in many ways, you could make the argument that is a great case of this quote.
that is exactly it.
No.
How a man's reach should not exceed his grasp.
No, I do not believe that.
Yeah, I mean that's the
Your
quote.
reach should always you should always reach for what's beyond your grasp. Always.
Right.
However, you should be prepared for not actually being able to grasp, because that's the whole point. Because you cannot stretch, you cannot grow as an individual or as a society if you do not reach for what's beyond your grasp.
Is this a question of something that's unattainable?
No, not necessarily, because by becoming a better person, a better society, you can attain that, but then you reach for what's next.
Constantly reaching. It's kind of like calculus.
Yes,
to
to reach, to strive, to grow, to achieve.
Yes, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield, as Tennyson would say. It's kind of like the calculus model. If you go from here to the wall halfway each time, you'll never reach the wall.
Very true.
And that's kind of like, and the reason I say it this way is because what we're talking about here, if taken slightly 2 points to one side, becomes we must become God, which is an impossible task. And that's one of the things that I worry about is.
But it's never that explicit, And I think that's part of the problem, because when you don't say no, either you're not told no,
that's where I'm going.
or you
here.
don't say no to yourself to rein in your
Well-
base desires. What you're doing is you're saying, I don't need God, which you don't realize says, I am God.
That's right. It's the same thing.
But it's a very subtle thing, because some will say, the nut jobs,
Yeah.
they will go so far as to explicitly say, I am God, or I am above God.
Well, yeah, and you're talking about Nero, Bonaparte, Steve Jobs. Okay.
Perhaps, yes.
Yes.
Jim Jones.
Jim Jones, yeah, his was more direct, but certain individuals that think that they Jurassic Park, Frankenstein, those are all those same stories that
Yes.
lay us out that we who try, there is a certain point that you reach beyond that you shouldn't go. And that's kind of that's the Frankenstein story, but it's
Right.
essentially what we're talking about here is sometimes you have to know when to say no, as Billings would say here, because you've gone too far. And some of it's an
Well-
ethics question.
Yes, Imperator was
Yeah,
about to
we
say
have,
something.
We have had a severe lack, especially in the United States, of the ability to say no to our children.
Oh, well, that's
I was wondering when that was going to
And
come
this
out.
is going to
It
bring it
has-
back around to what Martin was talking about, that individual level.
And what's ended up happening is we have become a spoiled society.
Sure, we are a victim of our own affluence.
Exactly.
We really are.
We tend to blame the other generations as being, we name them as spoiled without about
Well, yes, everybody but
So-
Gen X is.
But
Well, yeah.
I mean, look, look at look at the way our society reacts to something like being without power for a week or two.
Well, yeah,
All
absolutely.
shit hits the fan.
Well, that's
Well,
correct. Yeah.
well, we have structured things in such a way that if you have no power for a week or two, I mean individually, if we're talking nationwide, it's total chaos.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you
Even in a
know,
locale.
it's the road warrior after a week.
That's right. Dogs and cats living together.
Together, mass hysteria.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you think about it, in the city, less so out here. By the way, we are in Studio C.
Yes, we
Yeah,
are.
This is our
on the
first
range.
time
This is true.
In the Holy Land.
in the Holy Land. Yes,
Wonderful.
and I must say that Resort Cajun rocks.
Absolutely.
It is
Very much so.
Yeah,
Yes.
100% endorse.
Yes, 5 stars on Yelp.
He rivals Martha Stewart in his decorating and hosting abilities.
Does that make you my Snoop Dogg?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so. I'll
Yes,
vote for
yes.
that.
We'll
Yeah.
go with
Yes.
that one,
I'll buy that for $1.
Yes, yes, I think we can all agree on that.
or at least Little John.
But but when you think about the whole thing about being without electricity for a week, out
yeah.
here it would be less of a thing.
Well, we are.
I mean, it still would be a thing because we still need our refrigerators to keep our and freezers to keep our food.
Preparation. There's a generator out on the back.
Right.
You'll go on a moment's notice.
Exactly.
But-
I got one too.
When you're in the city, the expectation is the power is always going to be on,
It is.
and for the most part, that is true.
That's
Not
right.
always, but it is mostly true.
There is no self-sufficiency
None.
in urban areas, whereas rural areas are taught that.
Yeah,
That's what
City,
we were.
you're going to have your
Well,
power back on in 10, 12 hours, probably
let's-
max if it
Right.
goes
Yeah,
out.
let's
out here,
rephrase
we
that.
may be days.
Right,
See,
right.
rural areas used to be like that.
And you're exactly right.
But
I was gonna say,
now
When I
it's
grew
all
up, that's
the-
how my grandparents, they had everything they
Yeah.
ever needed. They needed nothing except maybe sugar and flour.
Yeah.
And that's it. Everything else they could do without.
Well, in the flour, depending on what you grew, you could make your own.
Yeah, it's a bit of a pain, though. That's always a
Yes, I agree.
But now,
Quite the
now
process.
People are fleeing the cities for the rural areas, and they're vastly unprepared.
And they are messing them up royally.
Well,
it's
yes,
like
this
all those
is
people moving from.
Mildly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to buy this place right next to the hog farmer. I want to complain about the smell. You're the
Naturally.
one that moved there, dumbass.
Well, and I know Robert here has been learning to watch Yellowstone
Yes.
recently. That is one of the meta themes of that amazing series, is because it's in Montana, and it's about how pardon me, all these people from California, from
Yes,
Seattle.
that was the very first episode
First few
they talk
episodes,
about
they
that.
talk
Yes.
it's a flight in there because they've got oodles and oodles of money,
Yeah.
and they come out and they want to basically urbanize this
And-
resort, this place.
Right. And what is it they call them? Those people come and forget.
I don't remember either. I was
Because like in the very first episode, the guy's
very-
out with the kid.
It's very mean, but it's true.
Yeah. It's not the others, but it's it's like basically outsiders or something
Invaders,
like that.
Well, down-
Outlanders is
down
would be
here
Scottish.
in the heart of bourbon country, I believe they're usually called foreigners.
Foreigners.
Furners. Well,
Furners.
that's
Furners.
correct. It's not unique to just out west.
Yeah.
Out here in great Nelson County, Kentucky, the home of bourbon, you're right. And when people come into
Outsiders.
outsiders. Now, I'll give you an example here locally, because most of the folks that grew up here, my family in particular, has been here for 200 years, and a whole lot of us have been that way. We welcome people that move in, like Cajun's parents moved here from Louisville, but they bought property, moved in, and stayed here for 50 years. They were just as much part of the community.
And now they're finally locals.
Yeah, they were welcomed in. We had when
Well, but I mean, that's true, though, in a lot of places. Those who move in, it takes a long time for that family to be considered
yeah.
a local.
Well, out here it was a little different. If you moved in and bought property here and became part of the community, became part of the church, it didn't take very long.
Became productive and not irritating.
That's
in other
correct.
ways.
I think that's the big
Yes.
key.
Well-
Understanding what you're getting into and living the life, adapting to the life.
There was a time here at this local parish where the pastor at that time was bringing in families from Louisville because
Yes, I know who you're
we're
talking
talking
about. Yes.
of a particular bent, and the people here were incensed because these people, it was basically like seagulls. You fly in, squawk a lot, shit all over thing, and fly back out again. They had no interest in becoming part of this community.
Right.
And that was war.
Well,
that was,
and
that was a declaration
I
of
believe
war.
we
That's
used
invasion.
to refer to those as carpetbaggers.
That's correct. That's
Well,
very
and
much
the-
so. It's the same type of thing.
Well, no, it's a different thing
Well,
because
different.
carpetbaggers came in and they wanted power and they stayed. These you're talking about. The problem is they didn't become part of the community because they came in for the weekend.
They did.
came in for the Sunday liturgy.
But they also wanted power within that system.
They
So
did.
there's some similarity.
But I mean,
to that.
you know, at least when
and
the
we're given it.
At
And
least
the-
when the
and-
carpetbaggers came, they moved in.
Yeah,
Those
was
did
even,
not.
even worse because they ended up taking positions of power within that structure and didn't even live here, displacing those who had held those positions, volunteer, mind you, for decades.
And sometimes that's actually a good thing, displacing those who have been in positions for decades, because that's a very calcified community.
But it should be
But it should be organic,
by other people from the
and it
community.
should be by
Well,
yes.
that's
Not
yeah, exactly.
outsiders.
It's
You can't run a Nelson County parish the way you're going to run an in-town Louisville parish.
Well, you shouldn't even run an in-town parish like that.
yeah.
Well,
but I
yeah,
mean,
because
But
there's
you just can't. It's just not
well,
the same thing.
in a community like in rural communities, especially this area, the church is the heart of the community.
That's
Now,
correct.
maybe less so today than it once was. I grant you, that's true everywhere.
and even in this small town of New Haven, there are other denominations.
Sure.
It's majority Catholic, of course, but
Right,
You know,
and you know, we Catholics, we will suffer their existence.
that's right. Well, I mean, when you all drove in, there's a large Baptist church.
Sure,
and
sure.
It has been since
I
I
mean,
was
it's
a kid.
Kentucky. There's going to be Baptists everywhere.
Sure, that's correct. And there was a Methodist church once upon a
There's
time.
no dancing, but Baptist.
Right.
Yeah, and it's an inclusive community if you are part of this community or close by. It's when you want to come from Louisville in particular.
Right. And that's
Innovation.
it goes back to Cajun's quote.
That's right.
You know, when you talked about the people move in next to the hog farm and complain about the smell.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and in Yellowstone, the people who move in and want to make it just like you just left California because you hated it. Why do you want to turn it into California? You're bringing all the things you hated, that you think you liked about it, but all that does is recreate what you left.
Or people who move from Maryland to Virginia.
Yeah, Maryland to Virginia. I mean, California to
to
Texas.
Yeah.
Any of it. You're.
Shout to the Babylon Bee for their very funny.
Oh my God, that is such a
about-
funny series.
Sending a series about people moving from California to Texas.
It is hilarious, but it's that whole thing about you want what makes you comfortable, what makes you happy, and there's no sense of should I do this? Never mind even should I do this because of what it's going to do to the people around me. There's two levels to that. As we talked about, there's two levels.
yeah, and that's-
is it good for me, and is it good for the people
Well,
around
and that
me?
goes back to this narcissism we've been talking
Exactly.
about here.
Yeah, that's kind of like the snowbirds coming north
Yes.
to south every
Right.
year. I mean, I lived down in Georgia for a while, and we see a lot of them. I was in southern Georgia, right near the tip of Florida. And for the most part, they come down, they integrate into society. I mean, you always had your 10 or 20% of them that you were thinking, I wish they'd never show up and go back home. But
Right.
for the most part, they come down, they'd have a place around there, spend the winter where it's warmer and nicer, and be an integral part.
Well, yeah, and
Not trying to change
that's
things.
in the state
But
of
you know
Florida,
what?
in many respects, industrialized that.
There's probably 10 or 20% of any community you wish would go away.
That's probably on the low number for me.
well, you might be included in that 10 or 20% for everybody else too.
That is true.
So
We're
it's
getting about time-wise, where we at?
let's see, we
We're
were at
about 30.
28 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hitting right
at the
along there.
30-minute mark.
Oh yeah,
Bourbon break.
that's right.
All right. Actually, I was going to ask. Actually, water this down just a bit. I was thinking about topping it off a little, but that's okay. I think we'll be fine.
What are we drinking today, gentlemen?
So, Francis, what did I pour again? Booker's?
Yes, you did.
Oh yes, I'm anxious to hear your take on it because we had it.
Is this your first
I
Booker's
think
experience?
this is my first Booker's.
Now
yeah.
this is the
Your first
special.
glass of Big Boy bourbon.
It does look like his mustache is starting to twirl up a little bit extra
Yeah.
on the ends.
So I like this. This is I don't know if I'm getting this right, but it may be a little butter toffee flavor.
Yeah, I think that's probably
a little,
fair.
maybe just a tiny bit caramel, but that kind of real buttery.
Creamy.
Yeah,
Butterscotchy.
Yeah.
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 So that was it was tremendous flavor.
Very high proof. This is what like
I think a little coffee
123.
in that too. Yeah, 123.
Yeah.
Which you want that with having bloomed.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
You've got the large sphere
needs
of
the
ice
ice.
to go
But
with it.
it was good from the very first though.
Yes, unlike some bourbons that require a bloom to be really good, That's good without.
Yeah, it was very very flavorful right from the very start. You really get that kind of like butter toffee caramel right from the start. It's super good.
Yeah,
Super good.
excellent stuff. Yeah, when we had it, when we were out here for, right after Cajun's mom's funeral, that's when we first had it, Francis and I, and it was stunning.
That's right.
in its goodness.
This is not just regular Booker's. This is a little bit more than that. Am I right? It's a special edition, I think.
Well, Booker's in itself is a special.
It is. It's one of
Right.
And that pulled single barrel bottling and so forth. So, but the proof on them varies depending on where it came out of the warehouse and so forth. It varies
that's
from what
true.
I learned when I went on the Jim Beam tour, which is where Booker's is from, and you actually get Booker's on their tasting flight there. It
God
can
bless
vary
them.
on average anywhere from 117 to 124, if memory serves right. That's what it has to be in range of that. Or it's
Right.
113 to 120, somewhere along in
127,
there. I
I
forget
believe.
exactly.
Yeah, well, we learned that at the Fraser event, which we should talk about too. The guy that the big persona guy, I forget his
From
name.
Yellowstone.
He was talking about how that cask strength stuff is a bunch of crap. Just having that does not make it the best. You have to taste it, the various proofs and ages and what have you to get the best, and it's not always the straight cask strength. That was a very educating experience.
It was.
You two guys got to go on that. The rest of us didn't. So,
Well, you could have.
Booker's was
I
always
couldn't
my
have had it,
preferred
yeah.
bourbon, but I always drank it neat.
and it's potent. I mean, you got that high proof. Yeah.
I
Well, one
always
time he
loved
had the bulk
Booker's.
to really absorb it, so
yeah.
there's less of him than there used to be.
This is true. There's
Of
a
course,
lot
I remember
less.
back when there wasn't much of him either.
Well, that's
Oh,
true.
long
Yes.
time ago.
We all do. That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
That's right.
Well, there was a time when there wasn't as much of us as there is now. for all of
I've
us.
always was the heavier one out of the group.
Yeah, that's true.
I
And
mean, early on, back in college days, I was heavier.
you're
but
stocky.
That was a whole nother medical issue, too, that I didn't find out about until my 30s, adding to that, which is hypogonadism.
Oh, okay.
They
Yes,
started me on
yes, I've heard of it.
testosterone. That's why I never could drop the weight early on.
Yeah.
There was actually a medical reason for it. Oh, well, back to bourbon. Okay.
So
Francis, what did you pour, man?
It was the flatboat,
okay, yes.
which I have not done that one yet.
I've seen it many times and thought about
You
it.
tried it once
I
out
thought
here.
you poured
Did I?
Long Branch.
Yes.
Okay.
I
Long
opened the
Branch.
flatboat up
No,
to you to
no.
give it
Yes,
a try.
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I do remember that. I do not remember much about it because that was a while ago, and
It may have been your second or third pour.
possibly.
Yeah. So, but no, I'm again. It is mild. It really is mild. I wished I'd have checked the proof on it. It wasn't high though. I've been avoiding those high.
There's a
proofs.
couple of different flatboats. The
Yeah.
flatboat 125 that'll take the paint
I
off
think
the
that
walls.
one's 100.
Yeah, exactly. I want to say that's what that was, which is right about the sweet spot. The lower the proof is,
No
usually-
pun intended.
Yeah, it's kind of better for me, but there is a sweetness to it. That's right. Now I've got the big spherical ice, and it's been blooming. The beauty of that ice, it doesn't melt quick because it's all one mass. Whereas if I had chips of ice like from a bag,
Oh yeah, that'd be gone
it'd be all
in
gone, and then
10
it's
minutes.
completely diluted, which is part of the process. But I like it cold. I probably overdo the ice, therefore I've got more of a diluted.
So that's why I always
Any particular flavor notes you're picking up in that?
butter.
butter. Interesting.
Well, I would not have been able to articulate that until Martin said so. But I've never thought of that flavor. But I took a drink when you said
Yeah.
that, and I think, okay, I can see that.
Yeah,
here.
it's like a
can see-
toffee or a caramel.
Yeah, it's and it's
with that butter
that's that
base.
when I say smooth, that's kind of what we're alluding to here. It's almost a sweetness, but because it's not a bitterness. It's kind of like wine. You got your sweet wines and you got your dry wines. This is kind of more on that sweet side, but I
got a
kind of like that
creaminess to it.
Creaminess. That's a very good word too. Yes.
Yeah.
It's got that.
It's interesting.
feel.
Similar descriptions of the two. I almost think we should each try them just to see, because you guys used almost nearly the same language to describe the two bourbons.
Yeah, and yet they're
And-
completely different.
And I actually bought that flatboat just because I like the looks of the bottle. With the
Yes, it is a great
Yeah,
bottle.
that-
I mean,
it is.
It's a good-looking bottle.
But if I were to put it next to Booker's would probably be more potent. That's how I would come up with it.
Well, yeah,
I
you're
think
20
it's-
points up on the proof.
Well,
That's
it's
right.
going to be a little sharper. Is probably a good way to
That's
put
a
it.
good way of putting it.
Yes.
And I think it's
This is nice and mild.
probably more complex. I mean,
Oh well,
Booker's
there's a
is a-
reason
is a-
Booker's is what it is. I mean,
a-
Booker's is named after the master distiller Booker No,
Booker, no.
who has passed on, but he was a legend
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
out this way. And his
Yes.
son Fred, who I've met many times actually, many years ago, he is now his father's heir and master distiller at the Beam
At
plant
Beam,
on that.
yeah.
And he's the one that I don't want to say enforces, but makes certain that the quality is for each brand, in particular the Booker's, because that was his father's, is what it is. And it's kind of like their, I don't want to say their flagship, but it's more like the top tier.
It's pretty close
Well,
to
for
flagship.
Beam,
I mean,
yeah.
Booker's, Baker's.
Booker's is one of those that, for those who aren't bourbon connoisseurs,
The heathens.
the warmth in the throat and the chest and
Right.
and down towards the stomach is very distinctive with the
It is.
Booker's as
It is.
opposed to some of the others.
Even other high proofs like
Exactly.
the Old Forester Prohibition style,
Well,
which we all really like.
Yes.
That's
And
harsher.
those high
Yeah.
proofs, they tend to be harder to take.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. The Booker's is very smooth for that higher
It is.
proof.
And it's definitely got that warmth to
Yes.
it.
Yes, that Kentucky hug.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what did you pour?
So Robert poured some of the Yellowstone.
Okay.
Why is Robert talking of himself in the third person like Bob Dole?
The importance of it all. He said Yellowstone.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Yellowstone is one of my favorite brands.
And
Now, which
so-
one did you get? 'Cause
So I forgot to look at the proof on this. I thought it was I thought it was the bottle that we had gotten at the Fraser, but Cajun said it wasn't. The label is very similar.
is it
Yes,
the
it is
black
the same
label,
line.
The black label or the white label?
The red.
Or the Yellowstone?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of red and black.
Black
is
and
what's
red.
on
Black
the-
and red.
Okay,
Yellowstone
yeah.
is in red on this
Yeah.
one.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
got
the
it.
background.
Black background.
Yeah.
That's the one that's on the counter there.
Yes.
Okay.
And
That's
it's
the Yellowstone Reserve or something they call it.
select barrel. It's
Yeah.
one of those selects,
Barrel,
but it's
Yeah, selects. Yeah, that's it.
and it is it like a lot of this. There's definitely it feels like it's a higher proof. I don't know what it was, but it's got a definite intensity to it that I like.
Because they do vary by proof, just like the Booker's does.
Yes.
Depending on the bottle.
There's there's a bit of that sweetness and that caramel that you often get in bourbons, but there's also you get some of that smoky flavor that really is a good complement to all of it. And it really kind of ties it together. Sometimes you get these tastes and these hints that you get that are that you get a hint here and a hint there, and then at the back end you get this hint, and they're kind of disparate tastes, but this really just kind of ties it all together, which makes it a very smooth bourbon in its effect on you as well as its flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a very nice warmth
tell you
all
what,
over.
I mean, dollar for dollar, Yellowstone is hard to beat.
It is.
It
I
is,
would agree.
yeah.
Yeah,
Now-
it's one of the very best. It's the low to mid
Yeah.
mid low price. It's not
Kind
low,
of a mid price.
What's the
$20
what was the price on
usually.
this one?
No,
the
the
ones
yellow.
we picked up, the Fraser.
That was 80.
67. Let's see, 80. Around
Yeah,
80.
79.
Yeah.
Depends on where you find it. If it's on sale, I'm going to say $67 to $80.
And that's what this one was?
You're right.
Whereas
Yeah,
the
okay.
white label you're getting for like $30.
38.
38. Okay, yeah.
It's usually about 38 at Kroger.
Right.
The Yellowstone white label.
And to be honest,
and it's
hard to
good.
find sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it's so popular.
they usually only have like one row, maybe 3 bottles, 4 bottles.
Yeah.
So
And they do have another one out, the malted line.
right,
That's the one.
yes, they
More
talked
like a
about that.
Scotch
That was
line,
interesting.
Very earthy. Which
Yeah.
I've got a bottle up there. I think that's the greenish blue top
Well, we might have to.
or the gold, which
we
one or
might
the
have to
other. They both
crack
got
that one,
whitish
yeah, 'cause
labels.
That's,
Yeah, that was an interesting flavor at the Fraser.
Yes.
The beers I didn't care for as much. At least not that first one. That was very
First one I care
was
for
watery.
all. It had a minty, lemony taste to
yeah.
it.
It's very thin.
The only thing about
So
that
was it
unique
like an
was the
IPA?
products came from Boehmheim's
Botanical.
There we go. Thank you. Botanical Herb Gardens over there.
Okay.
Was let to put that beer for the
Bernheim Forest
lemon
is
and-
literally across the
for it.
road in Claremont,
Literally,
Kentucky, from the Beam Distillery.
Yes.
Right.
From the big Beam Distillery. There's
yeah.
several. But
There-
Second
couple.
beer was a Yellowstone beer where they took oak staves. And
Yes,
they
that's what it was.
soaked when the beer took and of making it.
Really, I didn't
And
know
that was very good. I liked
was.
that
I
quite a
don't think
bit.
I realized they did the beer thing over there.
Well, that's a new thing.
No, this
Yeah.
is another company. This is out in Mount Washington, which we need to go to apparently because they have a big restaurant. I mean, you can get all kinds of football food and
Yes.
so forth, and they have what they say 200 different beers there, or something.
Something
It
like
was
that, yeah.
outrageous number craft beers
Well, hey,
Is that
sign us
Gallon
up.
Fox?
in Mount. That's it.
Gallon Fox.
Gallon
Yeah.
Fox.
Yes, Gallant Fox.
Oh yeah, that's down the street from me.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's not far at all.
Yeah. it's
Yeah.
nice.
We need to go
That's
out
right.
there for dinner.
Oh, I would love to
beer
go to Gallon
tasting.
Fox. We need, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Road trip.
Yeah, road trip, yes.
What did you pour, Cajun?
I went with an old one. I don't think I'd ever drink out of the bottle. It's usually Robert's bottle that he goes to, the Woodford Reserve Double Oak.
Oh,
Ah,
yes,
yes.
that's right. Robert's favorite.
So, yes, I would like to
I
hear.
decided to try that a little bit today, and it's always a good product to go to. It's a good standard. It's got a nice earthy taste to it, and I would almost dub it as, of all things, this being September, and the weather's already cooling off into the upper 40s here in the Promised Land, as a fall.
I can see that.
Interesting,
There's
yes.
a depth to that
is-
to that double oak.
Earthiness,
that is
yeah,
very
that
different.
heavy oak. I almost get like an apple cider taste.
Interesting.
That's
Apple
we've
itself,
never
an
brought
apple
that up.
cider.
Yeah.
Is it
Like,
pumpkin
almost.
spice bourbon?
Oh,
Let me get
shoot
my gun.
him.
All right,
Yeah.
you are
Hand
dismissed.
me the weapon
right.
over there, Marcus.
Yes.
That's right.
You
now,
are
as-
dismissed.
Now, as a matter of fact,
Word boner.
my last
No, no, no.
Oh no, you want the
Absolutely, that's right.
my last drink of bourbon happened to be August 31st of 2014, and that was a double shot of Woodford.
There you go.
regular Woodford.
Select. One of their single batch thing, whatever. I don't remember. It was one of the
Interesting.
higher end Woodfords.
But they usually do
But
have.
now that one,
Woodford has a great product line. We really
They
now,
do.
I'll
Woodford's,
grant
yeah.
you that one was a little bit more expensive for me than it is for most people
Well,
because it cost me a week in the hospital, outpatient surgery, and $40,000 in medical bills.
I was going to say
But-
that kind of puts that right at the top of the most expensive bourbon ever drank.
Yeah, if I would have known that before I ordered, I would have gotten something better.
You would have had some Sprite.
Yeah, and I thought the 18-year-old Knob Creek I tried when I was down at the Jim Beam restaurant down there was expensive.
Right. Yeah, no, that doesn't even approach that.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting. You know, Francis said that the Woodford Double Oaked is my favorite. You know, with all the tasting that we have been doing, over
Expansion
the
of
years,
palate, yes.
I don't know that I would call that my absolute favorite
Oh, really?
anymore.
You have adjusted, sir.
Well,
Maybe.
I still love it,
He's
Nothing
grown.
wrong with that. You can have lots of favorites.
but you know that Weller's we had when we were here.
Yes.
That's
The antique.
yeah. That was
107.
really
Antique
phenomenal.
107 is tremendous.
Yes. I'd have to do some side by side to really, but you know that one was really great.
Well, we're going to do a little of that in an upcoming episode.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
But you know, I've never gone to buy a bottle of that, so I don't know how much that costs. What did the Antique 107 cost?
The antique 107, depending on where you find it, it's going to run anywhere from $150 to $200 a bottle right now.
Yeah, so
I
you
know
see-
a store over in Boystown that has it on the shelf right. Well, now that
That's
the
not
Bourbon
bad.
Festival is going on,
It's
right
probably a
now,
little higher
it
priced.
may be the shelf could be empty by easy means.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's where we're at this weekend. We're
And you know,
Testing.
honestly, I'm probably not going to be buying a $150 bottle of
We're in the
bourbon
midst
anytime
of a
soon.
couple of bourbon festivals.
well, we are. That's correct.
Well,
yeah.
we are in the oldest of the
Yes,
bourbon
the
festivals.
real
yes.
bourbon.
The
Real
bourbon
bourbon
fest.
festival,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes,
As opposed to
Here
the
in
Bourbon
Bardstown.
Music Festival.
Yes.
Yeah,
Bourbon
which
and
is-
Beyond is
Bourbon
what
and
you're
Beyond,
referring
yes.
to. Those punks up in Louisville are trying to take the spotlight away from the Holy Land.
and they're doing a successful job in many
No,
ways.
they're
they
not.
are.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Well, they've
No,
got some
no, no, no,
tremendous
no.
Anyway,
acts.
but both things are going to be full.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
Bardstown's going
And
to
there
be
will be people going from one to the
Filled
other,
with-
depending on what
Yes,
they want
that
to
is
see.
true.
just cruising
Yes.
through this morning on the way here to the Holy Land. I mean, it was already people on the sidewalks, parking spaces full on 3rd Street, everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be.
Already.
The weather's
Yeah.
beautiful, so we'll probably do.
We'll have that hike in today to get to
We'll
it,
get
probably
that
from
hike in there.
Corky.
Yeah, we've talked about
Mhm.
hiking misadventures before.
It's not uphill.
That's correct. No.
In the snow, both ways.
Well, if you're down below St. Joe Prep School, yeah, it would be uphill.
Well, that's true. If we end up down there, you know.
Well, we may have to drop Martin off.
So
I've got 4-wheel drive and a handicap permit. We're parking wherever the hell we want.
Oh wow, that's just right. Yeah,
Yes,
all right.
the Imperator is driving.
that's right.
So
Hail the Empire.
Hail the Empire.
Empire.
That's right.
So I just want to mention real quick that we've
designated driver by default.
Well, that's true.
No
yeah.
choice.
No choice of his own.
Yeah.
So we have quoted Alfred Lord Tennyson,
Yes.
Bill Murray so
Yeah.
far in this episode,
Yeah.
and I'm going to throw in John Milius / Clint Eastwood.
Okay. Well, yeah. You had me at Clint Eastwood. Go right
Yeah.
ahead.
So this quote reminds me of the line from the second Dirty Harry film, Magnum Force. I believe written by Milius.
I think so. Yeah.
A man's got to know his limitations.
Yes.
So
Okay, yes.
that deliberation, that idea of we say yes too quickly and no too slowly. We don't deliberate. We don't think about consequences.
Ooh, I like that. No deliberation.
no
Deliberation
deliberation.
is, in many respects, the mark of civilization. That ability to converse, to weigh
To weigh
good versus
alternatives. To weigh
good versus evil, that-
consequences.
Well,
You mean to be discriminating?
absolutely. Yeah. That's correct.
How about this? To quote the great philosopher Qui-Gon Jinn,
Yes,
the ability to speak does not make one intelligent.
that's correct. Well, but yeah, we've talked about that. Yes, you're exactly right.
Well, and like I said earlier, this is really a follow-on to what we talked about in a prior. It might have been the Code of Honor. I don't remember about that choosing to respond or just react.
yeah.
Reason and not.
That's part of the eternal questions business.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's
So this also reminded me of when you're talking about, again, we don't say no, and when it's emotional, and marketers play on that.
politicians play on
Yeah.
that.
And
Governments-
both aspects are inherently
Yeah.
predatory.
Yes,
And yet we
it's-
tolerate them.
but there's reasonings behind it that aren't. I mean, if you make a product, you got to sell it.
Well, I understand. Predatory is not necessarily completely sinister. I don't want to
Right,
put
right.
that in there.
It-
There's
well,
an
but-
element of it. There's an element of it.
It
There's-
reminds me of a TED talk. Simon Sinek, I think. Is
Yes,
his name?
Simon Sinek. Yes, great. Love his stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, his thing, the power of why.
Power of Why. Yes.
Power of why, and,
very-
and his
that's very
example, of
Aquinas,
course,
yeah.
is very Apple is or a product that when the way they advertise it is you need this because it makes you cool, not for the things that it does. They don't explain what a device does. They just advertise it as this will make you cool.
Well,
This is the
this
why.
was the marketing of cigarettes in the U.S. for
well,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
that
it's
was
all
exactly what that
75
was.
years.
It'll
yeah, but
make
it's
you-
all successful marketing when you think
Exactly.
about it. You
Yeah.
market and you sell based on benefits, perceived benefits,
Right.
not
Whether or
features.
whether or not they're actual benefits means nothing.
Right.
Sometimes they go that way. Depends on what you're talking
But
about.
there's a reason they
you're right,
do
it's-
that.
Yeah.
Is because that is the part of your brain that triggers first.
Right.
The emotional
it's
appeal.
and it's the dopamine response.
It's
Yeah,
the
the
reptilian
emotional
brain, too. It's an
reveal.
instinct.
We
instinctive
grab
are
onto.
living on a planet where roughly 3.5 billion people are of below average intelligence.
This is very
This is very-
true.
this is very
That's
true, yes.
That's
Absolutely.
a massive.
I mean, statistically,
number of people.
yes, that's
That's true. That's right.
yes,
Which-
a
which-
yes,
massive number of
technically,
people.
That statement
technically.
itself is a form of marketing.
Yeah,
you,
you're
you are,
looking
you
at
are making a
150
statement that is
million in the
inherently
US.
true, but it has a implication
Oh,
that is
yes.
inescapable that paints a picture that
Yeah,
you
there-
wish painted.
there are lies, damn lies,
And
and
statistics.
statistics.
That's right.
Well, and that whole
We should
statement.
do that one time. We've never done that one.
Yes.
Israeli, yeah.
That whole statement though about 50% of the people are of below average intelligence. It's a very
well,
it's
not
an
quite,
interesting.
but yeah,
Well,
49.999.
nah, I think you could do
You
50
could do 50 yeah.
because
Well, there has to be an average. Then like you're wherever the
well, which
however
average?
big, yeah.
There's the
however-
mean
whichever you
average,
want.
there's
I was
the
gonna say-
median
yeah,
average.
Exactly.
I mean,
You can pick that.
How big is the peak of the
Oh.
bell curve?
right, but it
Which
also
way do you go one side? Yeah.
a statement like that presumes one thing first of all, that the person saying it is in the upper 50%.
That's part of the propaganda.
Not
and
the lower
marketing. That is
50%.
absolutely
Yeah.
right. Because only those in the upper portion would recognize that there is a lower portion.
Well,
And what standardized
ironically,
testing judges that?
Ironically, most of the people stating that they're in the above average are in fact below.
Standardized testing.
Welcome to
Well,
politicians.
that is a comforting
Well.
statement because it doesn't require a single shred of proof.
No,
to
it
put
does
with
not.
But But you're
Well,
but it is it
But realistically, though, how many people actually go around stating they
it
are
has
above average
truthiness
intelligence?
about it. as
Besides
Dan
somebody
Rather
in
would
this
say.
room.
Yes.
Dan Rather. All right, so that's Tennyson, Dan Rather, John Milius.
Hold up. I am a Mensa member.
Yeah, but hey, this is true. Absolutely. That's why you're the imperator, sir. That's right. That's why you.
Don't feed his ego. Jeez,
My-
you've known
my
him
ego.
how long, and you,
yeah,
you should
I
know.
should know
needs-
better. Please don't.
I
feed
just,
it.
I
Please
just
don't feed
love
it.
the way Robert said that too.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
just don't feed his ego.
I speak from long years of experience.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. What else we got on this?
It doesn't
folks?
take a lot.
Well, I
to
think
feed
we
my
need to
ego.
True.
Cajun kind of wind it up. I mean, he is the captain.
Well,
and
yeah, we're
Yeah.
probably
His
hitting about
decision.
time for this, aren't we?
Should
Like,
be right at
We're only at 50 minutes. We could theoretically go a
yeah.
little longer. Yeah.
I was
But I wanted to make sure
around in
Cajun
there.
had plenty of time.
Yes,
to-
because
Yeah.
this is one of the things that you guys need to get better at. The three of us have a well-defined dynamic, and it feels like sometimes you guys are just reluctant to join in. And I don't want you guys to feel
it's
that
not
way.
reluctant. We're just choicier about when we choose to put our words of wisdom out, I'd like to say.
So you're saying we're loudmouth MFers?
No,
Well, I'm looking
Knee-jerk
over at
speakers
Francis
speak
at the
before we
moment.
thought, yeah.
we say
I-
yes too fast, and they say
Exactly.
no
I
with
was
more
honoring-
deliberation.
Yeah.
There
I
you
was
go.
honoring
There you
the
go.
spirit of the quote.
Well,
Exactly.
there is something to be
Exactly.
said that thou shalt not allow any dead air on the podcast. Yeah, we've got to
That's
keep
true.
this
But
moving.
overall,
But we
like
can
I
cut the
say,
dead air out.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
come
right.
across this quote, and it's like, Josh Billings, who in the hell is that? Never heard the name before.
I know,
but the quote
as-
struck me.
As
Got to
intellectual
digging.
fellas, none of us knew who this guy was. And
Right.
That's to our detriment. He's
Where did you find this quote?
It was on an inspirational feed on Facebook that does
Okay.
different quotes
Penthouse
and so
Forum?
forth.
Possibly.
Penthouse Forum.
No, that's a few otherwise.
I think they would. Yeah, I think they would take that quote the opposite. They
That's
don't
like,
say no off the
two
bat.
birds in the rear is better than one in the hand stuff, you know.
Yeah, that was a couple. Of, That was a couple of tabs over on the browser. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so that caught my
Penthouse
fascination,
Forum.
and I started reading.
That's brilliant.
The quote struck me and kind of grabbed me. So it's like I never heard of this person, so I started looking and reading more of his quotes, and it's like this fella's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I really
Simple,
loved about this is
good,
because
quick with it,
Yeah.
and come to find out, same time as Mark Twain.
yeah,
They actually was together talking. I could see those two sitting around drinking bourbon, smoking cigars, and bitching about the hecklers and stuff out there.
Oh, my
when they're
God.
trying
Can
to
you-
do talks and so forth. Back in that day and age.
He
Can you
would've-
imagine the epic bullshitting session that must have been?
They needed a shovel and a wheelbarrow just to clear the space around
well,
and
you
get
know
away
that,
from the
that
table.
kind of goes back to one of my favorite episodes that we did, which was regard who would you invite to dinner if you could.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and we did that on the on the website as well as on the episode. That Twain is somebody we none of us picked, but we probably should have all picked because can you imagine sitting around bullshitting with cigars and bourbon with Mark Twain?
And
I like to
cats.
pull both of them in.
Oh, absolutely.
Billings and Twain.
He
I
was
mean,
a cat
that's
man.
awesome to me.
Well, everybody has their faults.
Oh,
But yeah, I think we hit a good wide array. I wanted this to really spread out, which we hit the micro, the
And the
macro,
macro,
the interfamily dynamics, politics came in. There isn't a space that this quote can apply to in some form or another.
That's very true. I would like to offer is my role as the hammer.
That's what I was just going to say. Anybody else got any other comments? And for you to come on in with it.
One thing that strikes me about that, I mean, it's hard to sum up just one quote. Nothing really to tie together. But what does strike me about this quote is there's a lot of depth there.
Oh yeah.
As well as breadth. But it is so simple. And it really speaks to much of what we talk about on the show. It really speaks to the human condition itself.
That the eternal question part.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, that's something like this. Really, it's very obvious in how it touches on it because it really, well, maybe not obvious. Maybe for us, it's obvious because we think about this stuff more deeply
Did you
than
happen
most.
to catch his
Renaissance
quote about
man.
angels?
Pardon?
Did you happen to catch his Billings quote about angels?
No, I didn't see that one.
Man was created just below angels, and he's been going lower ever since.
I've heard that.
You'd like that one.
I've
Oh,
heard
you
of
had
that one. Yes, I mean, not necessarily from him, but I've heard people say something similar.
That was his.
Quoting Billings and didn't
Yeah.
know it. Yeah.
But it really speaks to the human condition in the sense that we all have a choice to make all the time, and for all the choices that we make, whether it's to reach for the glass of bourbon, to offer to get somebody something else, how we're going to treat our waiter or waitress, server. We don't use waiter and waitress anymore.
I don't know. Is server appropriate anymore?
Apparently it still is.
Okay.
It still is.
Food delivery system.
Yeah, food delivery. Well, can we even say person because it has
Technician.
son in
We
it?
had to say
Hospitality
system, have robots
minister.
to do it too now.
Yeah.
Yeah, food delivery technician.
Technician, that would probably be a good way to put it. But it speaks to that human condition in that it really, it almost touches on not just what makes us human, but what makes us truly intelligent. Qui-Gon Jinn aside, because intelligence is not just the ability to speak or to participate in society. It is, at the very minimum, it's not just the ability to reason, but to reason in the greater context of not just yourself, but your community and the effect and the impact that you have on others. Yeah. And that, to me, that's what this really speaks to, is that and you know me, I like to hit that relationship thing and that, of course, that inherent dignity. And I don't think it's necessarily about that, but it's about being, who used the word earlier, deliberate? It was Martin, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Started out there, yeah.
It really is about being deliberate in how you go about your life, or at least whether or not you are deliberate.
Intentional.
Intentional is the word today.
That's right. Well, that's very
Yes,
that's very thorough.
Are you being swept along, or are you steering the ship?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
You're a ship.
Grabbing the
Right.
marrow of life and sucking it forth. That's Henry David Thoreau, and it's
Well,
what he's talking about.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, you could make the argument that the saying the yes all the time is the sucking the marrow, because it's
Domination. That would fall under that. Yeah.
it's not even necessarily
just
domination.
being-
It's selfishness versus selflessness.
Some of that is related to dominance. I wonder.
Sometimes, yes.
That might be going further than I'd be willing to go with it, because I mean, to me, this is still just primarily about your decision-making process.
Yeah.
Are you someone who just snaps at the first shiny piece of bait, or are you a deliberate person that thinks through what you want to do and making sure you're making the best decision with the information you have available to you?
Even quickly. In fact,
Yes,
to do
you-
it
you
quickly
could-
would be very.
Yeah, you can decide
that would be
no
primo.
quickly.
I think you guys can refine that even further to making a decision, even if you don't want to make that particular decision. Because
Yeah, the
you
hard
need to
decision.
say
Ultimately, that's a
no to
quality of
yourself,
leadership.
basically.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
some hard decisions are a yes.
And that's true too.
Some hard decisions are a no. And as Francis pointed out, you can make a quick decision that is still deliberate, because sometimes the best and right decision is your first gut instinct.
Right. And
Not always.
that would speak to a level of someone who is understanding of the world around them, the situation that they have.
High self-awareness
High
as
self-
well as
that's high
awareness of
yes.
the rest of the world.
Right, and it's a high EQ is what you're talking
Yes.
about here, and probably some high IQ along the way. But in many respects, IQ doesn't really matter in this.
I don't think it
No,
does.
I think you're right.
It's
I think-
EQ that matters.
But
yeah.
because you can have people that have very low measured intelligence, and I use the air quotes here, that are still very smart people.
Very much so, and in fact, they might even be the more compassionate and
Yes.
and empathetic people, and that's, to me, that's where it's at. And all the business world agrees with that now. It's finally in the last
Well, they
30
give
years.
lip service to it.
Well, yeah, that's correct. They recognize. I mean, and I get a lot of this in my Google feed all the time because it's an interest of mine. It is always EQ, and every business leader. Richard Branson is the most latest, and he's somebody that we do admire because he's taken basically the man didn't even graduate from high school, and he has built $1 billion empire based on the fact that he knows how to manage, he knows how to lead.
Well,
And,
another Billings quote to back up what you just said. Genius, after all, ain't anything more than elegant common sense.
That's right. And
Yes, I saw that too. Yeah,
Branson is
very good.
definitely one of those guys that can do that.
Elegant
well.
common sense.
Yeah,
I
he
like
knows
that
his
a lot.
business.
That's a great
We'll
one.
have to hang on to that elegant common sense.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thanks,
right.
Josh Billings.
that was excellent. I'm glad you found him. He is a worthy addition to our pantheon of great thinkers.
Anybody that stole a clapper out of a bell in school fits right in. Because
Absolutely.
that's the imperator to a T here. So
Yeah, there's some truth to that. That one's for
So
dang.
he
Well,
should
you know,
be-
our good friend in the northern climes and I, we did have that night where we ran around Ann Arbor, borrowing the Blinky barriers, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
I did that once too after hearing your story years
Did you?
ago, and set it up in a friend's yard right next to the driveway in the ditch.
Nice.
But you
Nice.
didn't
It
cut,
stayed there for months blinking.
Yeah, those things will last for a long
They
time.
do last.
you didn't cut the heads off any parking meters, though, right?
No, we did not.
Okay.
All right.
No.
So where does that leave us, man? Is it time to say what's next, Francis?
I think it might be.
Check us
Absolutely.
on out, Francis.
Yeah. Next time we're going to go back and we've kind of discovered this is Cajun's influence here. We did the Manifest Destiny episode here a little bit back. We're going to play that forward a little bit and get a little bit more nuanced with this. We're going to talk about the gold rushes. This is something we really kind of just came up with, and that is a motivating factor in multiple times throughout history. The California being probably the most notable, that changed the world. It changed our national character and appearance and everything. And we're going to go deep with all those moments and how they formed the world that we know today. There's our eternal questions again, folks. So make sure you're here next time.
We hope you enjoyed another pointless discussion of eternal questions. Remember, new episodes drop every second and fourth Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern, just in time for your morning commute. And every fifth Friday, we drop a special Hoopajube episode. Spread the word we are on all the major platforms, and leave us a review. That helps others find us. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as our website, snakesandotters.com. Join us next time. Same snake time, same otter channel.